Robert Hansen, also known as the Butcher Baker, was an American serial killer active in Anchorage, Alaska, between 1972 and 1983. Hansen abducted, sexually assaulted and murdered at least 17 women. Many of the women abducted were released by Hansen into the wilderness and hunted. Hansen was diagnosed with manic depression with periodic schizophrenic episodes. The psychiatrist who made the diagnosis noted that he had an infantile personality and was obsessed with getting back at people he felt had wronged him. In 1967, he moved to Anchorage, Alaska, with his second wife, whom he had married in 1963. They had 2 children. In Anchorage, he was well liked by his neighbors and set several local hunting records. Hansen is believed to have begun killing around 1972. Hansen would stalk these women to learn their habits, eventually picking them up in his car and forcing them at gunpoint into his home, where he would assault her, then stab or shoot her. Some of the women Hansen murdered were prostitutes, and many were teenagers. It is believed by authorities that Hansen's first murder victim was 18-year-old Celia Van Zanten. Van Zanten was kidnapped on December 22, 1971, and froze to death in the Alaskan wilderness after escaping from her abductor. Her body was discovered on December 25. On June 13, 1983, Hansen offered 17-year-old Cindy Paulson $200 to perform acts on him. When she got into his car, he pulled out a gun and drove her to his home in Muldoon. There, he held her captive and proceeded to assault and torture her. She later told police that after Hansen chained her by the neck to a post in his basement, he took a nap on a nearby couch. When he awoke, he put her in his car and took her to Merrill Field, where he told her that he intended to take her to his shack near the Nick River area of the Matanuska-Susitna Valley, accessible only by boat or plane. Cindy crouched in the back seat of Hansen's car with her wrists cuffed in front of her. She saw a chance to escape when he was busy loading the cockpit of his airplane, a Piper PA-18 Super Cub. While Hansen's back was turned, Cindy crawled out of the back seat, opened the driver's side door and ran toward nearby 6th Avenue. FBI Special Agent John Douglas and requested help with an offender profile based on the 3 recovered bodies. Douglas thought the killer would be an experienced hunter with low self-esteem, have a history of being rejected by women and would feel compelled to keep souvenirs of his murders, such as a victim's jewelry. He also suggested that the assailant might stutter. Using this profile, Flotha investigated possible suspects until he reached Hansen, who fit the profile and owned a plane. APD secured a warrant to search Hansen's plane, vehicles, and home. On October 27, 1983, investigators uncovered jewelry belonging to some of the missing women as well as an array of firearms in a corner hideaway of Hansen's attic. When confronted with the evidence found in his home, Hansen denied it as long as he could, but he eventually began to blame his victims and tried to justify his actions. Eventually confessing to each item of evidence as it was presented to him, he admitted to a spree of attacks against women starting in 1971. His earliest victims were girls or young women, usually between ages 16 and 19. Hansen showed investigators 17 grave sites in and around south-central Alaska, 12 of which were unknown to investigators. There remained marks on his map that he refused to give up. Hansen was sentenced to 461 years in prison without the possibility of parole. He was first imprisoned at the United States Penitentiary in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. In 1988, he was returned to Alaska and briefly incarcerated at Lemon Creek Correctional Center in Juneau. He was also imprisoned at Spring Creek Correctional Center in Seward until May 2014, when he was transported to the Anchorage Correctional Complex for health reasons. Hansen died on August 21, 2014, at the age of 75, at Alaska Regional Hospital in Anchorage due to natural causes. In the Frozen Ground movie released in 2013, John Cusack portrayed Hansen opposite Nicolas Cage as Sergeant Jack Holcomb, a character based on Glenn Flotha, and Vanessa Hudgens as victim survivor Cindy Paulson. Robert Hansen was born in Estherville, Iowa, on February 15, 1939.